The question that I'm going to pose right now is, what if your AI learning strategy is failing, not because of the technology, but because you're designing for the wrong humans and intervening at the wrong moment? So again, as Mike was saying, you can't solve the problem of the future with how you've developed it for the past. So what I have in front of you, I just recently did a webinar, a learning session with two researchers and instructional designers from the University of Pennsylvania. And I thought they had a great framework, which is very pragmatic, which I'm going to share with you to get your arms around this dilemma. These are some of the things that you, if you dig a little deeper with these personas, these are some of the things that you might, and these were literally interviews that they captured what people were saying and in terms of the four personas.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question about what you were just sharing. Did they look at those four personas across the generations?
What was fascinating about this is that it doesn't, unlike other demographics, studies in terms of adoption and personas, this is not necessarily, it doesn't skew by like what generation you're from. It's really pretty
Really?
fascinating. Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
equal percentage of worrywarts.
I don't know if it's an equal percentage necessarily, but I do think that that was one of the interesting, and by the way, there's some BCG research that talks about this too, in terms of, you can't necessarily, I mean, it's probably more so, Anton, I can ask for the study, it's probably more so that it's like generational, but in a lot of cases, no. Like, for example, I'll just give you an example. My daughter's an alpha. She's a skeptic. I'm an enthusiast.
The old folks like me would be the worrywarts and the skeptics, right? And you'd think the enthusiasts would be the AI native or the digital natives, right?
Yeah. I think that's the big idea is that if you design the workflow from the perspective of the coachable moment and really address the coachable moment and reward the outcome shifts. And that's also in the BCG study, right?
How do we get the right balance? We could say the Goldilocks, but how do we get the right balance between the human element and the AI element? If we say the term onboarding AI, that could mean onboarding AI, bringing AI into our onboarding process, or it could mean bringing on AI into our organization and onboarding itself. It could be using AI in onboarding. It could be using AI to design onboarding. We're going to take about 10 minutes. This is all about questions. What questions can you ask yourself and your peers at your organization that can just help that conversation move forward? We've given you a couple thinking frames about capabilities, mindset and skills, and constraints, the ceiling itself, and then some question framework from the HMW question. But what one thing or two things or three things can you do?
And from my perspective, my gig is sales enablement. And so what I did is I ran my current 30, 60, 90-day plan through AI with some pretty heavy scripting, be brutal, be honest, be kind. And it said, you know what, this is great from a learning path, but it's not outcome oriented. And so it reshifted everything into those bite-sized components, which I knew better, but I wanted to see what it would do. And it helped me. So it helped me find my blind spots in how we're assessing some of our current standing programs, because I was like, if you stand still, you're going to get passed by.
I was just going to push the one on the ethical decision making. You talk about the evolution of the tools like in cloning. We just talked about cloning. If you're generating stuff for course content generation, the concept of cloning, when do you do it? When do you not need to do it? It's a new discrimination based off of the new capability. It wasn't there. I used to not be able to clone. Cloning can be good but it can also be very dangerous inside the organization. As these go out there, how do I actually take advantage of them in an ethical, responsible way?
Someone mentioned the word assertive or direct, because that is the way that we are really communicating with AI. Produce this output, here's the data, give me the facts, right? And it's in a way, we're kind of redefining the way that we even talk to people. So kind of like how texting shaped the way that we communicate, even in real life, perhaps AI would be the next kind of form of communication amongst human social behavior. Maybe for better or for worse, become a more direct species, or like where we just talk in a very directed manner. Because at even now, as we move through time, we want to get to the point. Everything is about like, how do we like get to the point where the time is not wasted, everything is straightforward. And AI has caught on to that, like since day one, maybe day two. It like understands, okay, no one has any time, so here's bullet points. And that's why we love the responses, because they're easy to digest.